because I forget. Okay, the problem with the do not disturb on the Gmail or whatever is that I always forget, damn it, to turn it off. So no one believes me, which is reasonable.
Oh, they just assume like, oh,
they just assume like, oh, she just forgot to turn it off because she always has. She always has on deadline.
Veronica gets mad at me because I don't turn it on when I don't want to be bothered, and I'm like, yeah, but I just don't. That's one less thing. I can't manage that because I'll do what you did, which is put it on do not disturb, and then it'll always be on, right? So
yep, which it basically always is.
It just Google now needs to get smart enough to just know when I don't want to be disturbed.
That's what I'm thinking. I just wrote about that. Predictive. Yeah. Like if you're gonna be predictive, be predictive.
Get there. Hurry up.
Get there.
All right. This is an audio podcast that we're doing video showing us record for those who don't understand. I try to mention that every time for people.
That's why I put on the lip gloss.
Put on lip
it
gloss.
Doesn't help me. It doesn't help me talk better, but it. It does actually.
Do your words slip out with alacrity?
Yes, they do. I talk so much faster. Otherwise, it's.
Yeah. All right. You ready to do this?
I'm excited. Oh wait, did you assign these headlines?
Yes, I did. Do you see them?
Oh, yes, I do. The tiny little gray
yes,
initials.
It's in the gray box.
See them. Subtle.
Brilliant.
I like it.
All right.
This is Siri. The Daily Tech News Show by Tom Merritt is brought to you by all of the supporters at Patreon. If you also want to support Tom, go to patreon.com/acedetect. That is patreon.com/ACEDTECT. And thanks as always for listening to the Daily Tech News Show.
As she just said, this is the Daily Tech News Show for Tuesday, May 13th, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt, and very excited to have Ms. Molly Wood from the New York Times on the show today. I love saying that. How's it going, Molly?
It is so crazy. Somehow whenever you say it, it's that much cooler.
Right.
I wish I were cooler. It is roughly 142 degrees in Oakland today. It's like our 4 days a year of warm, unusually hot weather.
I got some 90s going on, and I'm pretty close to the ocean where I live, so it shouldn't usually get this hot, but God's air conditioner is off.
We're having that same thing here. But other than that, things are cool.
Yeah. Inside, metaphorically, things are cool. Let's take a look at some headlines, shall we? CNET reports Microsoft announced a new Xbox One without the Kinect bundled in. That'll begin selling June 9th for $399 in the United States and £350 in the UK. A separate Kinect will become available for purchase later, though they didn't announce a timeline on that. Microsoft also announced that sometime in June, its paid subscription service, Xbox Live Gold, will no longer be required if you want to use most of their apps. That includes Netflix, ESPN, and YouTube. If you do keep paying for the service, though, Xbox One owners will get games with Gold, which was only available on Xbox 360 up until now, and deals with Gold. Both those features will come to the Xbox One in June.
Oh, so many things to say about that. But first, Ars Technica reports that Motorola announced the Motorola E Android smartphone, not feature phone, and that'll be on sale unlocked at $129. The E runs KitKat, Android 4.4.2. It has a 4.3-inch display with a disappointing 960 by 540 resolution. $129, people. It is a 256 pixel per inch display. It has a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon 200 processor, 1 gig of RAM, and 4 gigs of storage, but it does have a micro SD card slot, so you can add up to 32 gigs. It has a swappable rear shell, so you can customize it for $15 a pop. No, it's kind of the big price.
Oh, you froze right when you were saying no front-facing camera. Sorry, your internet, Motorola was trying to stop you from saying there's no front-facing camera.
Those devils.
Yeah.
There is no. I'm sorry, Motorola. Trade off for $129 in 40 countries in the next few weeks. It's not necessarily aimed at the U.S. market, but it's tempting nevertheless.
We're going to talk a little more about that, too. Hopefully you won't remain auto-tuned.
Yeah, what the?
For the next
conversation with Comcast.
9to5Mac cites, quote, sources with knowledge of the enhancement in development. It's the first time I've heard that one. Those sources say that Apple will add split-screen multitasking to iOS 8 for iPad. It's described as similar to how Windows 8 can snap multiple apps in the tiled interface on its tablets. The iOS feature would let users drag content from one app to another, things like text and videos. On the back end, it also means iOS developers would be able to share content between apps. Sources do warn that the feature might be pushed back to a later version or canceled altogether. Sources, you crack me.
You sourcey devils, you. I want that for LastPass. ZDNet's Mary Jo Foley reports that Microsoft is adding advanced rules and a new undo option to Outlook.com. Remember how great Outlook used to be and then it became Outlook.com? Or for most of us, Gmail? Users will be able to create multi-condition, multi-action rules, including options for time constraints, email tallying, checking read and unread email state, and more. Microsoft also simplified undo functions by adding an undo button. And what a concept. And allowing Control-Z to work wherever you need to undo. Once again, once it went to the web, it just became absolutely useless. These new features will hopefully reuseful it. They'll start rolling out today and should arrive for all users in the next few weeks.
I love how mobile and the web have sort of allowed us to take decades-old features like Control-Z and make them new.
Guess what, you guys? You're going to be able to undo with Control-Z. What?
That's amazing. A keyboard shortcut? Why didn't we think of this 20 years ago?
What's next? Macros?
GigaOM reports LG will begin selling its LifeBand Touch fitness wristband on May 18th in the United States for $150. Asia and Europe will follow shortly thereafter. The LifeBand can track the usual fitness metrics, but it cannot track your heartbeat. That's why it's fortuitous that LG will also start selling its heart rate earphones, which measure your heartbeat from your ears. They'll start selling those this month exclusively at Best Buy for $180. And then additional retailers will start selling the heartbeat headphones, heart rate earphones, sometime in mid-June.
In case you are wondering, the Samsung Galaxy Gear Fit costs $199 and does all that in just the band. I mean, really.
Just saying,
if those earphones cost $50, talk to me. $180, you got to be joking. Okay, anyway. Recode reports that 28 CEOs of the U.S. Internet service providers sent a letter to the U.S. FCC urging the agency not to reclassify their services as telecommunications. This is net neutrality related. Some have urged the FCC to classify ISPs as telecommunications providers, as they were until 2002, in order to have a firmer legal justification for net neutrality regulations. But the ISPs say that if you do that, it will, quote, impose great costs, allow unprecedented government micromanagement of all aspects of the internet economy.
With great costs come great responsibility.
Did I sound sarcastic there? Because I didn't mean to sound sarcastic there.
I don't know if you sounded sarcastic. Hey, this one's actually kind of scary. We've got more elements of the Cold War returning. The Verge reports that Russia has rejected a request by the United States to continue to use the International Space Station after 2020. That's when the agreement ends. The U.S. wanted to extend that until 2024 because that's the only way the U.S. can get to the space station. They currently pay Russia $60 million per person to ferry astronauts up there. Russia will also bar the United States from buying Russian rocket engines that would be used to launch military satellites from the U.S.
Wow. Although that sounds like good news for SpaceX.
Yeah, get on the stick there. All the private space companies. A little space race. It really is the Cold War again.
It is. It's a space race, but not government based.
Time now
so
for
many rhyming words in there.
A private space rate. Yeah, something in there. Time for some news from you. These are things submitted to our subreddit at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Our top story comes from ancientbearwizard, who submitted yesterday's Guardian excerpt from a book by Glenn Greenwald, alleging the NSA has been intercepting shipments of routers heading for export. The U.S. spy agency apparently installs surveillance tools, then repackages and reseals the device, sending them along to whoever ordered them. The allegation is based on a leaked June 2010 report from the head of NSA's Access and Target Development.
Wow. Mranthropology. I like that.
Mr. Anthropology, I would guess.
I'm going to call him Mranthropology.
Mranthropology?
I'm not going to call him.
Sounds cooler. You're right.
It doesn't sound cooler. Mr. Anthropology sent us a Wired article that Volkswagen announced it will introduce a 10-speed dual-clutch transmission targeted to arrive in the 2015 Passat. More gears, of course, allow the engine to optimize RPMs and save fuel. Plus, it allows you to pretend that you're shifting a whole bunch like a race car driver, which I enjoy. VW Group Chairman Dr. Martin Winterkom believes the design can help improve fuel economy across VW's group model range by 20%. And in case you're wondering, that does not include just Jettas and Audi A4s. It also includes Bugattis, which really need to save fuel at 250 miles an hour, and Porsches as well.
This is my new fuel-efficient Bugatti.
The thing about my Bugatti is now, instead of getting 8 miles per gallon, it gets 10.
It actually gets double digits miles per gallon. When you say, it reminds me of Miranda from Firefly. Miranda.
It does. There's something really, Moran is kind of a nice.
There is, yeah.
It's a nice phonetic combination.
MikePKennedy is just MikePKennedy, and he posted the Verge story of a European Court of Justice ruling that Google is responsible for content on its servers and must respond to individual requests to remove outdated or irrelevant information originating from third parties. In other words, it doesn't matter. Google's just indexing. They're responsible, according to this court. A Spanish resident had asked Google to remove links to an article about his house being auctioned after a failure to pay taxes. The individual said the matter had been resolved. Those articles are outdated. They shouldn't be on the web. There's a right to be forgotten in the European Union. The decision does run counter to statements made last year by the Advocate General there.
I can't imagine that Google is not going to fight that to the death. Because talk about a nightmare of a precedent. To have to clean up the entire web, basically.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. TM204 sent us a Rice University posting noting that Rice chemist James Tour and his colleagues have developed a flexible material that combines qualities of a battery and a supercapacitor without using lithium, which is found, of course, in almost all commercial batteries today. It can charge and discharge quickly like a supercapacitor or discharge more slowly like a battery. The capacitor is about 1/100 of an inch thick and flexible like graphene, and the researchers hope that they can make it even thinner and finally revolutionize friggin' batteries, for God's sake.
I know. Every time I put one of these battery stories in the lineup, I'm like, is this going to be the one? And they have not yet been.
The one. People just say graphene like it's the graphene. No, we're going to be okay. Flexible
Graphene's
material
coming.
with the supercapacitor and the
At least the folks at Rice are like, forget graphene.
Yeah.
we did this instead. Screw you, graphene.
You know what? Whatever way you want to do it, just do it. You're damn right about it.
Let's finish up with something fun here. According to former Canadian Space Agency astronaut Chris Hadfield, today is the last day that you can legally watch the video of him singing Space Oddity aboard the International Space Station. The first music video shot in space was filmed in 2013 near the end of Commander Hadfield's tenure on the ISS, and his license of the David Bowie song expires today. Although Hadfield says he's working with Bowie's people to extend the rights, it's still worth watching again for the weightless guitar solo and to honor Hadfield for proving that astronauts aren't just stoic scientific ciphers. They can also take time to be creative in space. If you are listening to this podcast on Wednesday and he did not renegotiate the rights, never fear. Hadfield's original song, Jewel in the Night, is still available. It's a little slice of it.
So bright, jewel in the night.
And that's fair use right there.
And we're done. Fair use is done now. Also, if the Bowie people do not renegotiate the license with Commander Hadfield, the coolest astronaut ever, they're dead to me for life.
Yeah, seriously.
You, David Bowie, will be dead to me for life.
This is one of those situations where you give a very favorable deal. You know what I'm saying?
Just do it.
Yeah. Before we get into the discussion, I would like to remind people that Molly Wood and I do another podcast called It's a Thing at it'sathing.me, where we talk about things.
It is possibly the funnest podcast of all time. I absolutely love it. I love it. And I'm kind of in withdrawal because, of course, Tom and I had scheduled a recording for Sunday, which turned out to be like Mother's Day.
We both woke up that morning going, it's actually Mother's Day.
Shoot, we kind of have stuff to do. So we're attempting to reschedule the recording because it's just such a blast. And if you have not heard it, I encourage you to check it out because all we do is sort of look at the world around us and identify things that we think happen to be about to be a trend or a current trend or maybe a trend that sort of blew up and we just caught on. It's just like stuff that we think is, it's a thing.
It's a bespoke, small batch podcast. Sort
It
of
is.
the kale of podcasts.
I like to think of it as a slow podcast.
It's paleo friendly. It's a slow podcast. Works on so many levels. It's a thing.me. Check it out if you will. We just do it for the laughs, and we have them. So come join us. All right. Before we get into the main story, which I want to talk a lot about the Xbox One, what about this Motorola Moto E? Like, it's 2011 again, ladies and gentlemen. 1.2 gigahertz dual core processor, a gig of RAM. The closest I could find in specs to this was the HTC Sensation, which came out April 2011.
The Sensation. Yeah, okay, it's not great specs. But what I like about the Motorola E is the Moto E is that it is not a feature phone. So it's not great specs, but it is an actual smartphone.
It runs KitKat, right? I mean, it
runs KitKat.
Yeah,
it's
most
legit.
of these cheaper Android phones are like, oh, we're going to be 2 versions old.
Right, and you have to make you have to make this trade-off in terms of operating system and frankly security that is or functionality. So most of the time when you see a phone that's aimed at emerging markets that has a price like this, it might be like a Nokia Asha phone, which runs an operating system that's basically a hybrid between no OS, right, or just it's really a platform-oriented OS,
right,
and something like Android. So this is like a full-fledged smartphone with specs that were, let's be honest, unthinkable 10 years ago, and it costs $129. So if you're in an emerging market, you just stop being a second-class citizen in terms of the phones that you're able to use. I think. Although the lack of front-facing camera is a big letdown.
And as far as emerging markets go, no dual SIM. Dual SIM is huge in places like India. So I'm not sure if they're really targeting the developing market as much as just like sort of that low mid end, right? $129 unlocked, full price. That's pretty great. And especially if somebody does a subsidized version on a contract that's $0.
No. Don't say subsidized version on it. No, I want phones like this to come out, to proliferate, to convince the world that the subsidized hegemony is crushing us all.
I take it back.
Buy unlocked. Be free.
What is actually good is not the subsidized, because then they're actually making more money off of you at that point. But what T-Mobile does, where they're like, just split the $129 into bits over time. So if you can't afford $129 at once, it still isn't going to be burdensome to pay it off.
Sure, I'm okay with a layaway model, but yeah, I want phones like this to continue to come into being because I want us to get away from this idea that phones all just let's be honest, like the $649 price point, there is no coincidence in the fact that for 10 years, every single smartphone that has come out, regardless of teardown cost, has cost $649.
Right.
Because really, why not invent a price when you know that American consumers are never going to pay it?
Well, no,
they're only ever going to pay what the subsidized amount is, and then the cost of the phone's going to be buried in their bill, and they're not even going to know it. Like unlocked phones are freedom.
How can you actually have a market set a price if there's no market, right? The $649 is totally arbitrary.
Yeah. Because
nobody's paying. They're paying $199 what they think they're paying, right? Because that was the subsidized price for all those phones. So.
And what they don't know is that they're actually paying like $1,200 once you roll in all of the contract stuff that they pay for it. And that doesn't even include the like $10 a month device fee that's buried in their bill. And
with the T-Mobile situation,
totally
I'm just going to say, like, you actually can tell what you're paying.
Yes.
Right. Even though you're paying really a little more than base, it's sort of like, okay, for the convenience of being able to pay it off, I know I'm paying this much extra. It's not hidden away. It's not this price confusion like you're talking about in the subsidized models.
And so I like that. I mean, I know that this is not aimed at the U.S. market necessarily, but I have a feeling that this is a model that could get more popular, that people would start buying phones outright for $129 a pop if they could. There may be a few too many trade-offs in this phone, and you're absolutely right. To me, the killer blow, now that you pointed out, is the lack of a dual SIM. That's a huge problem for emerging markets. Yeah. But if you're looking at just sort of the next billion, which is what all these that's what Nokia and Motorola and sort of the second and third tier phone makers, they're not talking about the US market anymore because they know that the carriers only give a crap about Apple and Samsung. And then it's pretty much locked up. Like my brother was calling around to pre-order the HTC One from Sprint. He went to a store and called Sprint customer service twice, and in 3 separate instances, 3 separate people told him that they had never heard of that phone. and then tried to steer him toward the Galaxy S5.
Because that's the only one they knew about. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
my boss told me to sell the S5.
Yeah. So these guys are just like, you know what? Forget it. Like, forget the U.S. market for now. We're going to talk about the rest of the world, talk to the rest of the world, and then hopefully try to like push change from the outside.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, in selfie-obsessed the United States of America, you don't sell a phone with no front-facing camera.
In selfie-obsessed world, like that's a big miss.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Microsoft continuing their trend of putting out features, having everyone complain about them, and then doing an about face, dropping the price to $399 June 9th, and getting rid of the Kinect. For months, Microsoft pounded the pavement and said, no, the Kinect is integral to the experience. You just can't sell the Xbox without the Kinect. And then Phil Spencer takes over 5 weeks ago, and he told Ars Technica, as soon as I took over, we started figuring out how to sell the Microsoft Xbox without the Kinect.
I just, like, Microsoft. I hurt myself a little bit trying to headbutt Microsoft. But seriously, don't they talk to anybody on the outside? Because remember, it's just been like a series of embarrassments. And I can't, honestly, this is a model that does historically work for Microsoft. They put out a thing that kind of stinks, like the original Xbox, which was not great. And everybody was like, are you kidding me? Like, Nintendo exists. Why would you even try to get into gaming consoles? And then it was not great. And then they just sort of like gradually like chipped away, right? Update, 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 update. And then the next thing you know, Xbox is king, Nintendo's almost dead. So you can't necessarily count them out of the race completely. But in this day and age, like, are you guys not even paying attention? You had to walk back you had to backtrack on almost everything that you said in your E3 announcement about the Xbox. You had to stand there and bald-faced defend decisions that were absolutely ludicrous, like make me pay 2 times to watch Netflix, first for my subscription and second for your subscription. And then you had to sit there and get outsold by the PS4 by several million units until you finally were like,
yeah. Well, until you bring in Phil Spencer, who goes, this is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. But like, what are the other guys doing? Like, I just don't even understand.
Are we seeing the dividing line between the Ballmer era and the Nadella era? Is that, I mean, because it's not like Satya Nadella took over and then everything changed, right? There were people in the Nadella camp before Ballmer left, and those are the ones who were affecting some decisions. And then there's slowly Nadella putting his stamp on thing and putting people in place as he can. Maybe this is the I don't want to say schizophrenic because that's actually an incorrect metaphor, but this is the divided personality of Microsoft.
Well, it's like the Microsoft that listens and the Microsoft that doesn't. You know, I mean,
kinder Microsoft, the Satya Nadella Microsoft.
It's the Microsoft that actually wants to have customers.
You know what it is? It's like a Microsoft that's trying to be better, but it's really having a hard time breaking its old habits.
Yeah.
Like, no, you have to have the Kinect. Oh, wait, no, I'm doing it again. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Right, I'm gonna stop. Like, it's funny because under Ballmer, it's like Microsoft went a little bit of that Apple model, right? Like, no, we will tell you what you want.
Right.
But they just weren't as good.
They weren't as convincing.
Well, you will want to get ripped off, spend more money, and have this thing like attached surgically to your Xbox that doesn't ultimately add that much, and that most of the functionality it does add doesn't work very well. And that was the big problem with Kinect. Like, you could maybe make the argument that it was a cool differentiator, but I'm telling you, when I tried it out, it just wasn't. It didn't add enough, and a lot of the time it didn't work. Like, the voice stuff just didn't work.
The voice stuff has improved. I just don't end up using it all that much. It isn't necessary. It isn't integral to the way I use the Xbox. And the facial recognition login doesn't seem to ever work.
That never worked.
Like, whenever it auto logs me out and I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm here. The only time it's ever worked is when I was trying to play Titanfall and my brother-in-law was trying to play under his account and it kept logging him out and logging me in because it saw me on the couch. I'm like, no. Like, now you work.
It's not. I mean, good, right? Like, on the plus side, good, Microsoft. Way to eventually listen to reviewers and consumers who have been mad about this stuff now for several months. It's not an insurmountable gap. I think the PS4 has outsold the Xbox like 7 million to 5 million or something like that. It's not an insurmountable gap. So good for them for realizing that the thing that Xbox, Xbox, like, you do too much.
Yeah.
You don't need to do all that crap. Just play games. It's just like, can we expect this going forward, or do you just have to wait 4 months to buy whatever it is that Microsoft releases?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see at E3. I'd be interested to see what kinds of things they announce at E3. It's not like it's going to be a big console announcement like it was last year, obviously, but
right.
We'll get a tip on which way their personality is headed. I am under congratulating them for doing the right thing with apps and saying, no, you shouldn't have to pay extra to pay for Netflix or to pay for Vudu or to pay for Amazon. That should just be something on the box, because it makes it a lot more compelling to somebody who's like maybe married to a gamer. And it's like, oh, well, that I don't really want to pay for Xbox Live, but I've got, I've got this spouse or roommate that likes to play some games, and you can play some games without Xbox Live, so we'll do that for that, but we won't have to pay extra for Netflix. I think that's really smart.
Well, and I think that the day of talking about the Xbox as the Trojan horse for the living room is kind of over, because I think there are now too many solutions for connected living rooms to believe that the Xbox is going to be the one, right? For a long time, it was sort of like, oh, that's their thing. That's their secret weapon. And I think they bought into that too much. And that's why they tried to pass through your cable into this thing and be your cable box. And it was like, it's like a freaking nightmare to try to set this thing up and get it working. And I don't want it to be my cable box and all of that. And there are 9 separate ways in my house alone to stream Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, or Amazon. And I'm probably not the greatest representation, but that means the average person has at least 3.
Well, I think that for the people who have none, right, because maybe the average person has 0, the majority of people.
Well, they have a phone, so they have at least one.
They have but they may not have a way to stream it, right? They may not have an Apple TV or something like that. So if they have a cable box, that might be it.
One. Right. They have like on demand, or they might have it built.
I do think that having TV on input 1, forget integrating it with your box, just having it on input 1 is a really interesting Trojan horse, because I find myself using the Xbox more often than the PS4 simply because it's already there. And all I have to do is press the X button. Yeah,
I did notice that, but the transaction cost was too high. So I liked having it there, and I used it a lot more than the PS4 when I had them both in the house, because I didn't want to switch inputs. That is true. But every time I turned on my TV and I was presented with the whole big pile of Xbox crap that I had to get through, like just to get to TV before I played the Xbox, I was mad.
Oh, see, mine doesn't do that. It's just if it's left on TV, it stays on TV. So every once in a while it does the we can't find your signal thing, which is really annoying. But it does it less than it did back in December. Oh.
Yeah, those are trade-offs for $500. You shouldn't have to necessarily make
$400 now if you don't want the
I know. So for $400, great. Uncouple, like decouple galore. Just make it play games.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard them address I just want their E3 keynote to be all about updates. Here's how we're getting rid of updates. Like, you will never have to download a 3 gig. Like, I had to download a 7. In one case, I put in a game disc and had to download a 7 gig update to the disc before.
Actually,
like,
the discs
that
are
game,
worst. The
before
Wii
I could
U
even play it.
Is the worst at that.
Microsoft
actually, I think they've handled it more elegantly than they have in the past. I haven't really noticed the updates except that my Xbox rebooted and I have to log in and it can't recognize my face.
I love how you like say a good thing about the Xbox and then just say some completely unacceptable thing about the Xbox.
But the Nintendo Wii U, you could just you cannot turn it on without waiting 15 minutes for an update anytime.
Did you buy that?
You
bought it?
Yeah, no, I bought them all just to be able to try them and live with them. Yeah.
I guess I should probably do that with the Wii U, but I don't know.
No, you don't need to. That's all you.
I cannot be bothered.
It's
with
collecting dust.
Yeah, that's a metaphor for what it's doing.
I hate to say it because some of my favorite games are Mario games and Link games and Zelda games, and I still love Nintendo, but the Wii U just does not do what I need it to do.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the calendar. Let's take a look at the future. Let's get positive about the Startup Conference, which begins tomorrow in San Francisco, as we mentioned yesterday. Also tomorrow, we'll hear about Q1 earnings from Cisco. And also today, you may not realize, is the 130th anniversary of a group of people in 1884 who were interested in the new field of electricity, meeting in New York to start the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. Founding members included Nikola Tesla, You might know him as the guy who championed alternating current. Also Edward Weston, electroplating dynamo. Elihu Thomson and Edwin J. Houston, inventors of the arc light generator. And Thomas Alva Edison, who took credit for inventing everything else. Actually, Edison invented the first practical electric light bulb, the phonograph, the motion picture camera, a mechanical vote recorder, a battery for an electric car, the first industrial research laboratory, electric light and power utilities, and the stock ticker. He also invented being a press hog, according to Nikola Tesla.
I can't dispute that. It wasn't just according to Nikola Tesla.
According to a lot of people. The whole elephant thing.
That's reiterated in many locations historically.
Our pick of the day comes from Lauren Lang. It's Ghostery, a web privacy tool that's available as a browser add-on for most major browsers and an iOS app. It blocks trackers, beacons, cookies from over 1,900 sources. And what Lauren really likes is you can choose to allow or disallow any of them with individual granularity, as well as whitelisting certain sites that you're like, I want to allow everything from them. That's fine. You can also choose to allow an item once and then automatically go back to blocking it. Lauren heard about it from Steve Gibson, who recommended it back in 2011 on Security Now episode 305, and has been using it ever since. Lauren says, I'm not fully in the tinfoil hat brigade, but I also don't necessarily want to have everything I do on the web tracked and sold. There wasn't a lot of middle ground between being not caring and locking things down so much as to make some sites unusable. Ghostery is exactly the compromise I was looking for.
I love that. I love the middle ground.
Check it out, ghostery.com. We'll have the links up at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Otto wrote in and said regarding the Apple Beats merger, okay, Molly, put on your conspiracy hat. Is it possible that Tim Cook has realized that Apple can no longer rely on the strategy that a consumer should be all Apple all the time, and instead is trying to find a way to make money off a wider consumer base? Beats is a great first step for this because their two major products are areas Apple already has extensive experience in, but would never market to non-Apple consumers for fear of harming its brand and ecosystem. And the two examples he gives are iTunes, which is an Apple-based product. You can't get it for Android. You can't get it for Windows Phone. And similarly, Apple presumably has a lot of strong audio engineering skill, but they might have a difficult time pushing sufficient quantities of $300 headphones under their own brand. He says even they bring nothing but a brand to the organization, Beats lets Apple make more money off more customers in areas they already have expertise without eroding the Apple brand experience.
I think that is very interesting because the only element that, well, one of the more intriguing elements of that proposed merger that, by the way, there's been no whiff of since the internet exploded that day.
It was supposed to be Monday. It was supposed to be yesterday. We'd start hearing about it sometime this week.
Right,
so,
exactly. Yeah. No whiff of that whatsoever. So possibly the greatest trolling ever. We won't know until we know. But the one really intriguing element of that I thought was that branding situation, because Beats is a big time brand, and they would be very hard for Apple to swallow it up, right? They buy a lot of things that they swallow up and that are never heard from again and are just sort of absorbed into the Apple machine. But it would be really hard to disappear the Beats brand, and not advantageous to disappear the Beats brand because people like it. But it really struck me as un-Apple-like to have another brand, to allow another brand to exist. And so I mean, assuming that Apple Beats is even a possibility, that is sort of the only thing that makes sense. And it would be a huge departure for Apple, and it would be really, really interesting to talk about. But I agree with Otto that that's almost the only way that such a purchase would make sense, would be for them to own and operate it the way that, Facebook owns and operates Instagram.
Yeah, and they don't really do that. I said something the other day about how Apple doesn't do subsidiaries. A couple of people pointed out that FileMaker still exists and is an Apple subsidiary, which I had totally let slip my mind. But I think that's the exception that proves the rule, right?
And I think it's a pretty let slippable kind of brand. It's not a brand as big as Beats.
Yeah, so that is a holdover from, well, it might even be a holdover from the first Steve Jobs era, but the Steve Jobs interregnum, right?
Right.
That the FileMaker is still there, and Apple must not see the value in shutting it down. But it's not like Apple's out there pushing FileMaker as one of their big brands. Yeah,
I mean, if they sell Beats headphones in their stores,
Yeah.
Like if they bought it and they continued to operate it and maybe put some engineering into improving the audio quality, that would be an interesting and probably profitable move for them. It would also change the way they operate the Apple brand because it would split it a little bit, and that would be fascinating. Not necessarily a bad idea, but certainly a big departure.
Yeah, if this does end up to be true, which is a big if, right? At this point, I still think that Apple says you have a great conversion rate, but a marketing problem with your Beats Music service. We have no problem getting people in the door, but we haven't been able to put together a subscription service. Let's do that, and we'll pay $3.2 billion because you make $1 billion in revenue off your headphones. But I wouldn't be surprised if Apple brought this in, made an iTunes subscription service out of it, and then eventually spun the Beats headphones off as its own thing that they sold off, the way Google did with Motorola.
Maybe, but God, that's a lot to pay to acquire a subscription music service.
Yeah, but if you make $1 billion
why
in revenue,
acquire the hardware? You know,
if you make $1 billion in revenue off of it, and then you're able to still sell it for around the same amount that you paid for it, it's free subscription music service at that point. Plus, you get the fun of having Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine as your executives for a couple of years, which is great at parties.
Yeah, and Apple does. They have historically been enamored of all things music.
That's true.
I have to say
that was just a Jobs thing, but maybe not.
Like my spidey sense just says I don't think this is going to happen.
Biggest troll ever?
I don't even know if it was a troll. It might have been a float. It might have been a trial balloon.
Well, that very first report said the deal was not actually signed yet and still could fall apart. So who knows? Maybe that video on Facebook that got leaked killed the deal. Maybe. I could totally see Apple doing that. Like, well, we're not doing this now.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
And it was not positively received. Although that's just the Twitter sphere and they hate everything. So I wouldn't have. If I were like a chief executive, I would certainly not take like the Twitter freakout response as any kind of market analysis. And any CEO who's doing that, I would caution you, like, don't do that.
Yeah, because that's the Twitter sphere's response to anything.
Yeah, it's a nation of haters. That's empirically proven. There was
that's
like that
research
that said that. Yeah, but there was that research that said that Twitter in particular is skews toward negative and cynical.
Great. Now I'm going to hear from the people on Twitter about it.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't have to worry about it.
Because you can mute them.
Because you can. Ha ha. God forbid you would just unfollow them.
No, because then they could tell.
I know. It's a whole separate, like, is it just politeness? Like,
and then they'll come at you. Why did you unfollow me?
Yes, they'll come after you.
Well, because they can still @reply you even if you unfollow them. But if you mute them, you don't see their
but then you can mute them after that. Oh, mute just became useful because you could unfollow them and then mute them when they're mad about it.
Yes.
I'm convinced.
There we go. We've cracked it. We've cracked your code, Twitter.
Look for a mass shedding of Twitter followings on my part shortly following the show.
Folks, if you want more Molly Wood, check out nytimes.com/machine learning. That's one of her homes on the internet. Anything coming up there or elsewhere you want to let folks know about?
I'm actually really excited about this week's machine learning column. I feel like we've had a couple really good ones in a row. I really liked the one I wrote about HD voice 2 weeks ago, and then the one that's coming up tomorrow is about children and their digital identities that their parents establish for them when they're babies or even before they're born, and how kids they register, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook pages, Gmail addresses, and they set them up with this whole digital identity that the kids have no say in. So by the time they become self-aware or get online, they've got this whole rich footprint or history, and what does that mean for them? It's like baby's first digital identity.
Wow. I mean, it's one thing to be saddled with the name Tom out the gate, but then to have everything created for you from the beginning.
But in a way, it might be kind of nice because you never have to worry about locking down your username.
So
there's a couple all these different elements, right? There's your username is sewn up, right, when you're born.
We were going to name her Ryan, but that was already taken on Twitter.
That is apparently a thing.
Yeah.
At least there are apocryphal accounts of people who changed their kids' names because they couldn't get the URL.
No kidding. Oh, that's fascinating. Check that out, folks. nytimes.com/machine learning. Thank you so much, Molly. I know we went a little longer than usual, but this was too fun to hurry up through.
I know. Sorry, everybody, but I loved it, and I hope to be back really soon.
Excellent. Me too. Twitter.com/Mollywood. Also, thanks to our patrons, 3,938 of you that allow us to continue to do the show. The more patrons we get, the more stuff we can do. But huge thanks to everybody out there, patreon.com. Thanks to the folks at Patreon for their support and for everybody who supports us. We really appreciate you seeing the value in the show and giving a little value back. Also, Matt Lucas pointed out the Daily Tech News Show Google Plus community just hit 1,000 members. So hooray for us. Thanks to you guys for creating a little community out there on Google Plus. That's not even something we push people to do. It just kind of happened spontaneously, which makes it even more special. So check it out. Google Plus, Daily Tech News Show is right there. And don't forget, you have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can email us. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Our phone number is 512-59-DAILY. That's 593-2459. The show is live at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on alphageekradio.com, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with Dr. Kiki as our guest. See you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio programs so good, it's like you're there.
Yay.
I love podcasting.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I felt
it.
like I was tongue-tied today for some reason.
I was too, because it's hard to read. I've forgotten how to read out loud. I love doing the headlines, though.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, that was super fun. I felt involved in the
Yeah.
topic. I was like, I'm here.
Plus, you get to do the little Sports Center thing, where we bounce back and forth between the stories, which is always fun.
Oh, now I want to go watch the entire season of Sports Night, which I own on DVD, and I occasionally just binge watch that.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best, man. The show's freaking great. There's a doggy.
Hello, doggy. Jax.
I briefly decided that all I wanted for Mother's Day was a kitty, and then I was like, no, I don't want a kitty. I think I want a kitty, but I don't want a kitty because I have to take care of a kitty every day.
Yeah, and also you're in the you're in the coyote sensitive area, or do they have coyotes up there?
Yeah, but apparently apparently it's a thing to not there's all this guilt now about not letting cats outside, about having all your cats be indoor cats, because all of those studies that came out that said they were horrible genocidal maniacs and they kill 3 billion small animals a year. So now there's all this freak out about the ecological impact of outdoor cats.
Of letting your cats outdoors.
Yeah, and it's become this big social guilt trip thing to have your cats be indoor only. But I think indoor only cats go insane. They're neurotic.
I'm so glad.
They're more neurotic.
I'm so
I'll
glad
give
mine are
you
outdoor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are more neurotic, I think.
In my experience.
Yeah, indoor-outdoor cats are just more well-adjusted, I think.
When I moved from Champaign to Austin, my girlfriend had her cat, and we had to make her an indoor cat. She had been an outdoor cat in Champaign, but she was
even crazier.
And she was like, forget this, just not happy.
Yeah, we have 3 that are outdoor cats, and they are a holy terror, all 3 of them in the neighborhood. We're those neighbors.
Homicidal maniacs.
Yeah, I have a 21 cat.
They kill 3.5 billion small animals per year. They're having this massive effect because there's so many cats. It's not everybody knew that cats were killers, but there are so many house cats. And so they said the ecological impact of all these cats is way worse than they thought. They're hunting certain species to near extinction.
See, that it's not the total amount because, obviously lions kill a lot too, right?
Yeah.
But it's the
What is the total
proportion.
Amount exacerbated? Exactly.
Yeah. It's if they're hunting something to extinction, then that's out of whack, right?
I should have saved this for It's a Thing because it's so interesting.
We're doing It's a Thing.
We're doing it. This is how it happens. You guys are doing it
we're
right now.
accidentally doing it.
The title by unanimous consent seems to be Connected. It's in the chat. It's spelled lovelier in the chat room.
Lovelier.
Yes.
Wait, that's great.
And I get it.
Disconnect ed. Oh, dis connect ed. I like that.
I totally failed to find the chat room today. Sorry, chat room. I'm sorry, chat room.
Oh, do you need to know where it is, or did you just
where
slip
is
your
it?
mind? Oh, diamondclub.tv is the
That's
web-based
right.
one. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Sorry, you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have reminded you.
It was that we were at one point we were already on, and then I was like, I can't remember. I'm just gonna get in late because why not? Ah! Started playing.
Oh yeah, our show is also still running on Diamond Club. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, we're still live, so you can go in there and say hi.
I know. There we go. I am. I'm just going in just to say hi because the chat room's such a hug.
I'm so glad your internet straightened itself out.
Yeah, I was really worried about that and about to make the angriest phone call ever because I feel like I've been having a bunch of dropouts with Comcast even though I pay for the ungodly Comcast business and I'm pistified.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Plus
one
I
thing.
bought
There you go.
duplexing. Plus I bought the really fancy ASUS router that the cord cutter or the what's that site? You know that site. You go there and you just buy the thing they say to buy.
CNET?
CNET?
No, the other one. The one that I know. Shh. The one that only reviews one. You know.
No, I don't know what you...
She's not
You
allowed
guys-
to say it. It's competitive.
Chat room, you know. No, I just literally can't think of it. Ugh. It's
I bet I do
called
know what you're talking about. It's just not clicking for me.
Wire cutter, the wire cutter.
Oh, wire cutter. Okay.
Wire cutter. Anyway, just mad. Just mad at Comcast. But it seems to have gotten okay.
Well, because I remember when I had Comcast business in San Rafael, it was extra galling because you still sometimes got treated like you were just a, regular old customer because you didn't have that enterprise level account.
There's always another account.
I'm just
They're
like,
so awful.
no, the whole reason basically I ended up justifying paying for Comcast business because there was no bandwidth cap, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the only thing. Like I didn't have to worry that I would fall afoul of some bandwidth cap. But otherwise it didn't really have much advantage.
It's really fast. I mean, mine's really fast.
Yeah, I think you're on a different,
way faster.
You're on a different loop, so you're sharing it with fewer people. I think that you're right. That probably helps.
And it's higher speed. I mean, it really is. Like it's 50 megabits or whatever.
But you could get that as a consumer too.
Oh, you
It
can.
just
So what I'm paying for is but you never actually get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I get there, but I definitely have dropouts, and I think it's just because the Oakland Hills is a little bit of a third world country still when it comes to basic resources. Like my power goes out all the time, and the spiders are the size of dogs. Like sometimes I think that this country mouse is ready to move back to the city.
Do you take a jitney to work? What's going on?
No, I ride my horse.
There used to be a jitney in downtown San Francisco, actually.
That'd be awesome. It'll all get better once Comcast merges with Time Warner.
Oh yeah, that'll fix everything. That's the big benefit is you'll get better service. That's what they told the FCC and the Congress.
That's so weird.
The prices won't go down, but you'll get better service.
Why would you get better service?
Because they said so.
I know. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. Like.
By the way, Molly, several portions of the internet are now convinced that you have two matching beds.
I know.
Oh,
the funniest thing about that is what I was trying to do is minimize the appearance of the bed because I feel like it's because again, Oakland Hills, right? We have little houses up here, so I don't have like an office. But so I was like, someone pointed out one time, like, it's a little weird how, like, your bed is in the video. So I was trying to minimize it by but then I was like, but the more I turn toward the mirror, the more you're going to get. And you see the big pile of clothes on the other side of the bed.
You have a huge room with two matching beds. That's amazing. You live in a palace.
I know.
I saw that on Twitter. It was like, you have two matching beds? I pay double for bedding, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Now, do you sleep alternately in each one to like?
If my back starts to hurt, I just switch to the other one.
I could build you a thing. We could build you a thing behind you, just like a very simple human backdrop,
That's
like a physical one, not a green screen, and then you could have whatever you wanted, like a space station or like.
I want a space station.
A newspaper branded backdrop if you have to work for a newspaper.
Like at the studios where you go to do like the CN. hits. You know, we could have one that just says like NYT.
Yeah. Just build you like a simple three-pronged like book report backdrop.
Like the post-game press conferences, except your team is the newspaper.
I like that. It's pretty awesome, actually. I think I might. Yeah,
that would be simple because it wouldn't be so big. You know, you could do it.
I could easily get like just a little Soji screen.
Yeah.
Is that what those are called? Soji screens?
Yeah, or at least and at least just angle it so you block off the bed, which would then block off the bed in the shot.
Right. I'm getting that.
It's a nice cover, though. It's a nice cover.
Nice, right? I know. Crate and Barrel.
I
saw it in the catalog, and I redecorated my whole room just because I want this one. I was like, anyway, that happens once in a while.
That happens.
But so yes, I was trying to minimize it, and now it looks like I just, you know what, I'm a Gemini, so it seems appropriate that I live in like the.
Hey, you want to see a 21-pound cat, Molly?
Yeah, is it bigger than your dog?
Can you see it? Oh, you probably not. Can you see that, or is that too far away?
Too backlit. I see the head.
Also, I just lost the headsets. It's a disaster. 21 pounds. There's an argument against cats.
20. I know that cat is a stone killer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
By the way,
sits on things.
Before the show, I texted my brother about the Xbox thing because my brother and I, when I was reviewing the Xbox, we're just going to town on that thing. You know, it was just like, it does too much. Like, I can't get it to work. It's dumb. Hi, kitty. Where are you going? Don't run away.
I'm 21 pounds. I go wherever I want. Oh, well. He's impossible to frame. Oh, yeah. Wait, the pillow?
Yeah. The one with the flowers.
Oh, yeah, that was an Easter.
I want eclectic couch pillows. Like, mine are all the same color, you know. But pillows are one of those things I'm unwilling to spend
money on.
That's
how I redecorate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to get the ones with pictures of jazz musicians on them.
They had great ones. They had these pillows at South by Southwest that had Seth Meyers on them.
Really?
So it was a bright yellow pillow with adorable Seth Meyers, and you could hug it.
I remember.
I want to steal this so badly.
I remember that from your Instagram. I was like, do it.
Yeah. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
So my brother texted me back about the Xbox thing, which I had texted him earlier this morning.
Yeah.
And he's like, the internet, this is going to be a little inappropriate, but it's really funny. The internet nerds are all jizzing in their pants. NeoGraph thread is already up to 86 pages of, oh my god, I must buy this derp. I want my brother to do a podcast because he is the funniest member of the family. And I just want to it. Oh my god, I have to buy derp.
I think that I think he may have hit upon something there indirectly, which is Microsoft's strategy may be psychological, right? Where they like set the expectation low because they know the internet's going to hate whatever they do, right? So
maybe because they're Microsoft.
It's like putting in the thing for your boss to reject when you hand in the proposal, knowing that they're going to reject something.
Right.
It's Microsoft saying, well, we know you're going to hate stuff, so we're going to put some stuff we know you're going to hate, and then we can take it out later, and you guys will go crazy and buy lots more of it.
Maybe. I do really want to write a column about things that sucked at first. Like products that were just absolutely terrible at first, but then overall just got better. And the original Xbox is definitely one of them, but you could make the argument that most things that Microsoft has done are one of those things.
Yeah, I feel like the Zune is the exception, right? It just never made it. But there's so many other examples. Because I remember when the Zune came out, we were like, is this Internet Explorer where it's just going to end up taking over even though it's late? No, it wasn't. But
no, it was not. No, definitely was not. That cat, look, the cat's head is as big as Jenny's head.
21 pounds.
Oh my god.
I just wrote the cat because like all internet things should have a cat.
Well, yeah. Oh,
that's the one thing Microsoft's missing.
Microsoft doesn't have enough cats. It's true.
Yeah.
I loved their story about Cortana and how when I talked to them about Windows Phone 8 and Cortana, the guy that I was talking to basically was like, in all of my 15 years at Microsoft, I think that's the only time we've ever done anything that was just like flat out cool, just for the sake of being cool. Because he said that he told this great story about how internally they were trying to explain to the engineers like what they wanted this feature to be like, this personal digital assistant. And then one of them finally, one of the like nerdier ones, was like, well, it's like Cortana. Like, we're trying to build Cortana, which was, for those who don't know, the AI in the Halo games. The one who, like, she's like, you know, Master Chief's like voice in his head and guides him through everything and like helps save the universe. So they were like, we want to build Cortana. And then these engineers were like, oh, I get it. And then they got all fired up, and he's like, and it created this amazing cross team like cooperation, because they were just like, yeah, we want to be as much like Cortana as possible. And then it leaked, like a phone was left on a bus in Chicago, and I had the Cortana like code in there. But so then the internet found out that that was the code name, and he said that they started getting like 10,000 emails a day from people being like, please call it Cortana, that's so rad. And so they had all this like internal Microsoft agonizing, you know, where they were just like, I don't know, because we should call it Microsoft Personal Digital Assistant, you know, version 1.0.
Right.
And he's like, and then this really amazing thing happened, and the amazing thing is that somehow called it Cortana, and we were cool for like this 1 nanosecond. It was just really interesting.
And they own the name. Like, that's what was so brilliant to me, is like,
and
this is the coolest name you could pick, and you didn't have to worry about it. You owned it, right? Like, why wouldn't you do that? It makes perfect sense.
I know. I mean, it's kind of sad to know like that there was that much
hand-wringing,
that it was that hard for them to do it, but they did it, and I was like, good for you guys.
That's what I mean. It's them. They're trying to reform. They're like fighting against their own nature. Maybe. I mean, the Xbox at $399 without all that crap attached? Absolutely. Sounds super. Well, now it's perfectly comparable to the PS4. Like, no camera, same price, judge on games, basically. Because PS4 also has Netflix without having to pay anything. So it's essentially like, what do you want to play games on?
Yeah. And which games do you want to play? I mean, I was surprised at how many people like tweeted me after I wrote that comparison for the Times. I got so many fanboy tweets, and the tweets were like, once Titanfall comes out, it's all over.
Yeah.
Like, it was all about that game. So if it's about those exclusives, then great. Because Titanfall's rad. I agree.
Yep. I can't play it, but it looks really pretty.
Why can't you play it?
Because I suck.
Yeah, no. Oh, no, I can't play it. It looks amazing. But
yeah,
no.
I mean, I am incapable of playing it well.
I get it, yeah. No, I'm too stupid for it. Yes.
I'm the driver in our video game household. I drive.
You drive?
Like,
nice.
Matt sits there and navigates and says, "Go there! Wait, wait! I haven't finished reading that. Wait."
That's a pretty good tag team.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have another pair of eyes, but like, I will be the one with video game carpal tunnel syndrome when I'm 80 years old and playing Halo 1900. Yeah,
I love them, and I was pretty. Have been a pretty good Halo player at times, but generally speaking, like, I need to get just my gamer T-shirt just says "stuck in the corner with no ammo," because I can't navigate. Like, I just get lost, and then inevitably I had to fully 100% give up on Mass Effect. Like, I just couldn't, because I got stuck in the corner with no ammo on this one level, and then every time that I started the game, there I was stuck in the corner with no ammo, and then I would immediately get killed. I was just like,
my Mass Effect flameout. I loved Mass Effect 2 more than anything else in the whole world. We loved it. It like hit every tendency of ours. And then right in the beginning of Mass Effect 3, there was a thing where you had to do a somersault. I couldn't do it. I could not. It was like, somersault here, do this, jump here, and I was like, I give up. And I stopped. That was it. Just one somersault. Over. So we went to Last of Us, which was like perfectly depressing and wonderful.
Yeah, that was a fascinating trailer. I remember, like, I went to the E3 presentation last year, I guess. Maybe the year before.
Probably the year before.
Anyway,
for Last of Us.
I guess it was the year before, yeah. And the Last of Us, like, trailer, the game trailer that they showed, I mean, the room, that whole huge stadium room just went silent. We were all like,
let me tell you, the game is incredible. It's playable. It's just like suck you right in, and it never ends. It almost never ends.
Yeah, I apparently have gotten old, and now it's all about the voice. I'm like, whatever.
The show?
I can't engage. I can literally only lay on the couch. I can only lay on the couch and get into whatever singing competition show is on like 4 times a week, because then I can like work. And then
like, the voice is like, it's on. It's like a second job.
It's on all the time.
Always on.
But I kind of appreciate that, because it's that's the level of TV that I can handle, because I'm usually working at night, and so I just need to be able to multitask with some dumb show that I'm not that into, because I can't pay attention to a plot.
Yeah.
And then
Eileen
once
does the same thing for the same reason.
Shield or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm out of the post, Jenny.
Oh, okay. Hey, Molly, I have a question to ask you when we're off the live.
Oh, okay. I'll stay right here.
That ought to send a million conspiracy theorists spinning in Nikola Tesla's direction. Okay.
So I was at Soaptopia. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Do you know this song? Let me hum it. All right. Thanks everybody for watching us mess around and record an audio podcast. You're the best, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.